The Constitution of the Provinces of Freedom Haven, Draft Version 0.68, January 14, 2019, more at freedomhaven.org. Preamble. We the individual people, in order to secure the right to defend ourselves, to limit the scope of government, and to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, so that we can have a chance to learn, grow, and work towards achieving our greatest individual divine potentials, so that through our efforts and without compulsory means, prosperity may flow into us forever and ever, do ordain and establish His Constitution for the provinces that form the country of Freedom Haven. We recognize that freedom is an essential ingredient for individuals to achieve their greatest potential. We hold to the philosophy of liberty as a means to improve upon the life that we have. The initiation of force is immoral and harmful. Any government or any system of force, compulsion, or coercion will naturally try to grow in scope over time. We oppose such expansion. This Constitution is established for the purpose of preserving the highest degree of freedom possible for each individual while preserving the individual's right of self-defense. It is also meant to be the chains to limit what government can do. Article 1. Definitions. These definitions are written in logical order, not in order of importance. While the words below may have additional meanings outside of this Constitution, the definitions below will be used within the context of this Constitution, and all of them need to be understood in order to properly understand the intentions of this Constitution. Force, or compulsion, coercion, is defined as taking or destroying or threatening to take or destroy someone else's life, freedom, and or property. Freedom, or liberty, is defined as living life with the least amount of force or threat of force used against you as possible. Freedom is a God-given natural right and exists in the absence of any government. Government cannot create freedom. It can only preserve, protect, restore, or suppress it. Freedom is the ability to use your life and property according to your will, as long as it does not take away from someone else's freedom to do the same with their life and property. Freedom is what you are naturally able to do in the absence of someone threatening to murder you, kidnap you, and or steal or destroy your property. For example, we claim the privilege of worshiping God according to the dictates of our own conscience, and allow all men the same privilege. Let them worship how, where, or what they may. Life means sentient human life. This is any human with human DNA that has their own unique brain activity, regardless of their skin color, gender, beliefs, disabilities, actions or history, intentions, or location. Human existence exists when electrical signals are occurring in the brain. A human body that does not have any brain activity for a documented extended period of time, also known as brain dead or vegetative state, is the property of their legal guardians. Property, or tangible property, is anything that you can touch which can be owned. You cannot own another sentient human being. You and only you own your body while you are alive. Long-term actions that are deliberately intended to produce sleep deprivation can cause brain damage, which is property damage, and if that leads to deliberate death, then this is murder. Deliberately damaging someone's hearing through loud noise is also property damage, but in certain areas where loud noise is expected, it is expected that people take their own precautions within reason to prevent hearing damage. The only items government recognize as property are tangible property. Control over intangible or virtual items, which you cannot touch, such as information, perceived value, ideas, processes, etc., are not God-given natural rights. People may choose to keep their intangible items concealed from others or secure them within their rights of their own tangible property, but they may not attempt to control intangible items through the use of force on others. You are not justified in using force to control what happens with intangible items once they have left the control of your tangible property. Tangible property shall exist as either land or non-portable property, or portable property. Land property ownership. Multiple public decentralized databases should be kept by the people that record who owns which lands in Freedom Haven, with clear boundaries defined so that conflicts can be avoided. Where two or more individuals assert a claim to the same land, the right of the claimant able to assert the best claim is to be respected. This criteria by which the best claim is determined shall include the time at which the claim was first publicly asserted and the use to which the claimants have put the land to. The greater the use, the greater the claim. Lands shall extend above to the height of the space occupied by the tallest owned solid structure, and below to beyond the depth needed to maintain a very stable foundation of all structures on the owned land. No person or group of people may own all of the residents' property surrounding someone else's residence property without allowing them and their portable possessions instant, reasonable, free access to enter or leave their residence property at that person's own will and timing. All people should have freedom of movement to and from any residence property. Portable residence property. Any piece of portable property that can house one or more living humans is considered a portable residence property. The laws of a portable residence property are the same as the laws of the land that they reside on. If they do not reside on an owned piece of land, then the laws are the same as the outermost portable residence property they reside in or on. If they do not reside on an owned piece of land, nor on or in another portable residence property, then they can choose their own laws within the limitations of this Constitution. A property owner controls the use of their property. Any property that people own and can give legal consent regarding may be voluntarily exchanged between consenting individuals, but they bear the legal burden of showing proof that such a voluntary transfer took place. Violation of mutually voluntarily consented contracts involving property can be seen as theft of that property and therefore may sometimes justify the use of force by anyone the property owner authorizes to ensure all property ends up with its legal owner according to the contract. A residence property owner may evict anyone on their residence property for any reason at any time unless a voluntarily signed contract removes some or all of this eviction right. But a realistic amount of time must be allowed to reasonably vacate the premise. Contracts are responsible for covering what happens regarding reimbursement, if any, in the event of an eviction. Murder is ending sentient human life without consent unless it is required for self-defense. Kidnapping is taking away freedom without consent unless it is required for self-defense, which includes but is not limited to the following examples if no consent is given. Restraining, which includes rape. Imprisoning, blocking access to enter or exit any property that you have authority to or permission to enter. Providing addictive recreational drugs or other addictive substances. Theft is taking, destroying, using, or damaging property without consent and is only sometimes justified if needed for self-defense. This includes the following: robbery, invasion or trespassing, arson or vandalism, using someone else's property without their consent. This includes rape, which is physically using someone else's body for sexual intercourse without their consent. Defensive force or self-defense is using force only to defend your life from murder, your property from theft, invasion, trespassing, arson, vandalism, rape, etc., or your freedom from kidnapping, rape, etc. Force is only defensive force as long as the threat to life, freedom, and or property remain active. Justice, retribution, and or vengeance are not defensive force and are not justified uses of force. An individual's right to self-defense shall not be taken away unless that individual can be proven to be initiating force against others. For example, a shooter shoots an innocent person, and the people nearby take the shooter's gun away and detain the shooter. Government is any person or group of persons using force regardless of whether the use was justified or not. To the people of Freedom Haven, government and force are synonymous. Anyone using force is government, and government only exists when force or the threat of force is present. Extradition is capturing an individual and sending them to a foreign government to answer for crimes against that foreign government that are not also crimes against the laws of Freedom Haven. Pollution is modifying land, sea, or air belonging to Freedom Haven in such a way as to reduce its utility, with the exception of any modification of gas that also occurs naturally from animals. Excrement can be released back into the environment only after most of the biological breakdown of the waste has completed. Article 2. Rights. There are no rights but those that exist for all people. No third party can take away an individual rights, and no government permission is needed to have and use these rights. All rights are based on the truth of self-ownership. The only time rights may sometimes be taken away are in individual cases if required to stop them from murdering, kidnapping, and or thieving. Life, freedom, and property. Each individual person has the right to maintain and control his or her own personal life, personal freedom, and personal property after the corresponding age of consent has been reached. Defensive force. Force is only sometimes justified to defend someone's life, freedom, and or property. Since governments naturally grow in scope over time, this Constitution is established to block that growth so that the least amount of force that's required is used to defend life, freedom, and or property, and the greatest amount of freedom is preserved. An imperfect execution of justified government action does not justify an expansion of government authority. All people are permitted to arm themselves with whatever weapons they believe is needed to defend themselves and others, with the exception of nuclear and biological weapons, which are forbidden. Private property owners are permitted to further restrict weapons within their boundaries for the safety of their property, but these restrictions may only be enforced through the eviction of non-compliant people from their property. The manufacturing, dealing, and or trading of arms weapons are permitted as long as the arms weapons are legal in Freedom Haven, and the process does not put anyone else's life, freedom, and or property in serious danger. Someone simply having a weapon is, by itself, not enough to constitute a threat against life, freedom, and or property. Since we oppose the expansion of government, only the minimal amount of force needed should be used in any particular situation so that the situation is not escalated. This requires self-restraint when using force. While it is good to be honest with your feelings, we should aspire to be full of love and compassion. It is better to act out of love for that which you are protecting than out of hate for the person who threatens that which you're protecting. All property owners have the right to expel anyone from their property or deny access to their property for any reason they wish, but they must give adequate time and means to safely vacate the property without suffering loss of life or limb. Individuals may disagree with the reason the property owner gives or may think the reason is invalid, but this does not justify violating that person's property. We the people are the government. Neither the government of Freedom Haven nor any organization has any rights except for those which exist for each individual person. The government may not use force except the minimum needed to stop murder, kidnapping, or theft, as defined in this document. Any individual has the right to defend life, freedom, and or property, as defined in this document, But when such force is used, that individual or group of individuals is, in that moment, part of the government and is subject to the limitations contained within this Constitution. The emphasis of government should not be to punishment. The emphasis of government should not be to punish or condemn people for their actions, but instead to protect life, freedom, and/or property. People can change and improve, and government should not stand in the way of people becoming better than who they were. The emphasis should be on providing mercy to those who seek to fix what they broke, and not on handing out justice. Establishment of provinces. The boundaries of a privately owned land or portable residence property that doesn't exist inside the boundaries of another privately owned land or portable residence constitutes a province. Each province owner may have his or her own specific laws for their province for implementing this Constitution within their boundaries, with the following conditions. Laws of that province may not legalize anything forbidden by this Constitution, nor can such laws remove any human rights spelled out in this Constitution. Any such unconstitutional laws may not be enforced, but a property owner may evict people from their property as spelled out in this Constitution. Every person is to have reasonable access to the laws of each individual province. Any changes to the laws of each province must be clearly and promptly communicated to all people who are interested, with sufficient reasonable warning for those people who don't wish to comply to evacuate the province before the law changes go into effect. Brevity of laws is encouraged. The boundaries or borders of a province need to be properly marked if the right to prevent trespassing is going to be upheld. Otherwise, people may unknowingly enter another province through no fault of their own. Provinces may use the laws of another province. Having multiple provinces using the same laws makes it easier for trade and goods to cross borders. If one person's portable residence property is moved within another person's portable residence property or land property, the laws of the outermost property take precedence. If a land property isn't part of the equation, then the outermost portable residence property will take precedence. A person should not bring their portable residence property into another person's land or personal residence property unless they consent to abide by the associated laws. If individuals cause any damage to another individual's property, owners may also establish reasonable ways for the people on their land or portable residence property to fully repay or repair the portion of any damages they cause that they are found responsible for. The same may also be explored for loss of freedom or loss of life. A person will be held responsible for fixing the damage they are found responsible for, regardless of whether the damage was caused intentionally or by accident. Both of the following are true, but since they are in conflict with each other, in each situation it would need to be determined as needed how much of either is at fault and bears responsibility for any damage that was caused. 1. Each individual is responsible for making reasonable efforts to keep their life, freedom, and property safe from accidents that can cause damage, thus keeping them out of harm's way. And 2. Other people are responsible for not threatening that person's life, freedom, or property. Government or voluntary non-government mediation may be used to resolve issues between provinces of Freedom Haven, but this needs to be done in an orderly, publicly understood, and publicly visible process. This may include, but not be limited to, the following: rescuing and retrieving someone held against their will in another province, stopping someone who can be proven to be currently threatening the life and or property of someone in another province. Consent. Consent must be recorded in a way that it can be proven in court that the consent was indeed given. If individuals are accused of using force, they shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty, but consent is assumed not to have been given unless it can be proven. If individuals are shown to have used force, they must prove their self-defense justification or consent given, or else be in violation of the required limitations on force. Consent cannot be given for certain subject areas until after a certain age. Life. You can give consent regarding your life at age 21, agree to assisted suicide, etc. You can defend your life at any age. Freedom. You can give consent to give up your freedom by using addictive substances or trade your own slavery in exchange for products or services, indentured servitude or debt, etc. at age 18, on condition that an end date is specified in the contract. Overcoming any addictions acquired which were properly communicated ahead of time will be the individual's responsibility. Property. You can give consent regarding your property, minus your own body, at age 8. Your legal guardian can provide the consent until that age. You can provide consent regarding your body at age 18. Power of attorney. Consent can be legally granted to another for a period of time if the person wishes, after that person is old enough to legally give the consent themselves. Sufficient witnesses of this event are required so that this can hold up in court. The consent owner can revoke power of attorney any time they want, as long as they provide sufficient warning to the holder of the power of attorney so that they know. Consent can only be provided by the individual or someone with power of attorney. Legal guardians have automatic power of attorney over their children until they reach corresponding age of accountability, with the exception of the child's life, which the child themselves can only choose to destroy when they reach the corresponding age of accountability. In all things, consent is required to be documented in a way that would hold up as evidence in court if needed. Consent cannot be determined by any vote. No taxation, no rights to government services. Taxation is theft and is forbidden. The government may not steal to fund its efforts. No government services are a right. If individuals want a service but do not want to pay for it, they will have to find someone who is willing to offer that service for free. If no one volunteers to perform that service for free, then a service does not have to be offered. Individual people bear the ultimate responsibility to defend their own lives, freedoms, and properties. Individuals may grant authority to others to provide security for them. Each individual has a responsibility to be vigilant in order to protect his or her freedoms, property, and life. Each individual is encouraged to document each instance of tyranny so that force is not used beyond self-defense. Only the property owner may impose fees for physical access to or use of their property. No external government, group, or individual may impose any such fees or tariffs. Privacy. Government shall not have any rights to privacy. Government must provide timely public visibility into all actions it performs. Individuals not using force may choose to implement privacy, but not at the cost of another individual's rights to his or her own life, freedom, or property. Privacy is best achieved by having control over your own tangible property. Individual rights trump any vote of the majority. The vote of the majority shall never take away any of the rights of the individual as listed here. No extradition. There will be no extradition from Freedom Haven. The governments of foreign nations which seek any individual currently in Freedom Haven who broke those foreign nations' laws may choose to arrest them in their own respective nations, but they should not come to Freedom Haven seeking to arrest them in Freedom Haven. Neither should they expect Freedom Haven to extradite said individual unless the individual has committed crimes worthy of banishment from Freedom Haven according to the laws of the corresponding province of Freedom Haven. Representatives of those foreign nations are welcome to visit provinces of Freedom Haven with the consent of the province property owner, as long as they abide by the laws of that province and do not threaten another individual's life, freedom, and or property. No individual in Freedom Haven, including the representatives of other nations, is given special rights that are not also available to all individuals. Representatives of other nations will be required to abide by the laws in accordance with the Constitution of Freedom Haven, just like everyone else. Foreign nations may choose to prosecute members of Freedom Haven for laws that the individual has broken in the Freedom Haven province they reside in accordance with those province laws. Courts should be wary of evidence provided by foreign countries, since those countries may have an incentive to frame the innocent with falsified evidence, so that they can circumvent the no extradition restriction. Limitations. In addition to any other limitations listed here, any use of force or government action not justified in this Constitution violates individual rights and is forbidden. Any laws or regulations, executive orders, etc., passed in Freedom Haven that are in conflict with this Constitution are considered null and void and shall not be recognized by Freedom Haven's courts, security forces, police, army, etc., or residents. Article 3. Borders and Boundaries. Freedom Haven claims all of the various internal waters, territorial waters, exclusive economic zone, and other areas that exist for sovereign nations. Any person and their property is welcome inside these national boundaries, conditional on their adherence to this Constitution and the laws of any province they visit. All people are considered visitors of Freedom Haven until they attain their citizenship. To become a citizen, a person must have completed all of the following: had been present at Freedom Haven more than 50% of the time over the previous year, or be the owner of a province for at least a month, be in full compliance with the Constitution and or made full repairs for all damages caused, sign an affidavit of governance that 1. Requests their mother or father country stay out of Freedom Haven affairs, and 2. Asserts Freedom Haven as an independently governed nation. Citizens of Freedom Haven are free to also keep their previous citizenships from their home country. Freedom Haven citizenship can be revoked if a person is banished from Freedom Haven for failing to comply with this Constitution. Any private property, land, or portable residence may also become an extension of Freedom Haven as a new province member of the country of Freedom Haven upon their covenanting to uphold this Constitution and the freedom of the people. Any property owned by anyone not willing to follow this Constitution is not welcome within any of the above-mentioned boundaries of Freedom Haven. In addition to whatever is granted as a country's right according to global norms, the country of Freedom Haven claims ownership to all water, land, and air within its contiguous zone, 24 miles out, until anyone who is willing to abide by the Constitution lays physical claim to that water, land, or air by enclosing it, at which point it becomes property of that person and the province they represent. Any damages, such as pollution, as defined above, to the water, land, or air before it is claimed, as stated above, are not allowed, and any claimed water, land, or air that is damaged in this manner may not be returned to the area owned by the country of Freedom Haven